What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about the one and only Tesla stock and what you should be looking out for the future. I'm also going to break down why tomorrow is going to be a very interesting day because it's going to be the last full trading day before CPI comes out. So just remember, tomorrow is a Monday and the market's going to be open for the full day. That's going to be the last time it's open before CPI comes out Tuesday before the market opens on that day. So tomorrow is going to be a very interesting day. And I'm also saying this because there's going to be a bit of a battle between market makers and many institutions based off what they want to happen to the market approaching the date. Please be prepared for any possible traps. It's going to be very tricky tomorrow. And I do anticipate that the odds are favoring a small push to the upside, not guaranteeing it, but it seems very possible before a big move to be made once CPI comes out. So I'm going to break down what the data is telling us, something that Elon Musk put on his Twitter page, what's going on with Tesla's share price, what I do predict to happen to Tesla going into tomorrow. But before I break anything down, before I get into any more details, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Make sure you take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire Tesla community as a whole. And the last thing is, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks plus free level 2 data with $0 in trading commissions. It's a limited time offer. The offer ends in just 2 days. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. So Tesla was down about 5.03% for the day on Friday, underperforming relative to the market, but the same thing did happen to NASDAQ, as it was actually quite red. Now Tesla did underperform, and we are seeing more selling pressure actually taking control of the stock, but things could change a little bit tomorrow because I do expect there to be manipulation in the markets by the market makers. Now, before I break more details about that, I want to talk about some pieces of news. Right now, to tap the US government billions, Tesla must unlock the EV chargers, according to some big articles. This just came out, and this is actually very interesting because now there's a lot of talk about Tesla expanding its charger, the EV charger network. Right now, I want to note that I'm not seeing any updates at the time I'm recording this about this, how Tesla's responding. But Elon Musk in the past, he is open to the idea. He did say in the past that he wants to see supercharging expand even to competitors to help incentivize more and more EVs to come out there into the markets. It's really what Tesla's grand vision is. It's not to just put them as number one. I'm sure they want to be number one, but that's not their only purpose. It's to accelerate the advent of EVs in general. So that's part of what Elon Musk has mentioned before. And if anything, I do believe, this is my guess about this, that Musk will eventually announce something about that. They're going to have some new superchargers that are compatible for most, if not all, EVs out there. And this could be very, very awesome news for Tesla. Now, do I know Musk is saying that? Do I guarantee he's going to say that? No, but that's just my 2 cents on it. We still have to wait for more data to come out to be more and more certain. Now, when it comes to Elon Musk's Twitter page, I want to note something else that's pretty interesting. This person on Twitter just kind of talked about something in a very comical manner about the Tesla FSD commercial. And he basically was talking about the fact that a lot of people are learning about the fact that Tesla has cars that could drive themselves. And the truth is, yes, that is true, but you have to remember, it's a full self-driving beta. It's not 100% complete yet, but I do believe that a lot of people are still very open to the idea and very optimistic about this. And Elon Musk did mention the fact that these ads are technically, right, they're greatly increasing public awareness that Tesla could drive itself, supervised for now, right? Very, very important stuff in my opinion. I'm very, very impressed with the progress the company has made, but there's still a lot of work to be done. And I don't think that it's fair to solely look at some accidents that have happened in the past. You also have to look at the safety ratings that came from these Teslas. They are still very safe cars, and criticism will, of course, continue to come. I mean, mainstream news articles, this is their bread and butter. They make money with these crazy articles, but at the end of the day, Tesla is still making lots of progress, and I do believe the future is very bright. Now, for Monday, I want to note that we have one Fed speaker before the market opens. I don't think it's going to be that significant. And other than that, there's not really too much coming out other than consumer inflation expectations. Really not that bad. For Tuesday, that's when it's going to be the big day. We have month over month CPI, we have year over year, we have core CPI all coming out at the same time, 1 hour before the market opens on Tuesday. So please be ready for this. Now, before Tuesday comes, for Monday, I expect lots of manipulation. I don't know exactly how it's going to play out, but the odds are favoring that the market makers might try to prop up the markets similar to how they did on Friday. That's how SPY managed to close kind of green. I believe this is likely going to happen again. But the problem is the market makers are not invincible. They are showing some exhaustion, and also there are lots of big bears up there waiting. Lots of big institutions are starting to come in, and they are forming a fight. There's going to be a big battle, a big fight on Monday, and I think it's going to become more extreme once we get into Tuesday and etc. Right now, the bulls have not capitulated yet. We're seeing lots of bulls, lots of call volume still in the market. People are still loading up on calls. They're still buying lots of shares. They're still buying and buying and buying into the markets. And that's the reason why I believe with the potential momentum that's still there, we could still see some more buying for Monday. But CPI is going to be the make or break of this, in my opinion. If CPI comes in hot, it's going to shock the markets. That's why there are lots of articles talking about this. And I do want to note that there's going to be a new revised way of calculating CPI. Now, I don't know exactly what this means for the report that's coming out. I can't really predict it. But if we look at what happened when you compare the revised core CPI with the original data, you could see there were some instances where the original did overestimate some tops. And there were many instances, especially over the last couple of months, where it underestimated CPI. So the revised version actually showed that instead of a negative 0.1% growth month over month for December, it ended up being an actually 0.1% growth. So it was adjusted by the revised calculations, which actually taken real estate as a bigger sector. I will talk more about this a little later, but I just want to note that this data right here is kind of favoring that the increase is likely going to come. And I don't know if it's going to be much higher, but it is a little bit more likely it's going to be either high or at expectations. That's what it seems to be. And this, like I said, it's going to really shock the markets as these articles are putting out there. Now, I also want to note that as traders and investors, we have to be prepared for anything. There is still a possibility it's going to be low because this number could be very, very it's very manipulative. Basically, it could be altered depending on what they want to do, and that's the reason why I don't fully trust it in a way. But at the same time, we have to accept it because it will affect how the market moves. Now, I often would say things like it's just an excuse. The whole CPI in itself and FOMC, it's just an excuse for market makers to manipulate stocks, to manipulate the whole market alongside other institutions to make money off the options premiums. It's just a trick, and regardless of it, big volatility is still coming. And I will talk a little bit more about that in a couple of minutes. Looking at the Model Y inventory levels, they did have a push up just a few days ago, and it's actually coming down again. So that's a good sign because as we're seeing more of these models making up the inventory levels, causing them to go up, we're seeing big demand coming in and people are just buying and buying the Teslas like crazy. This tells me that the price cuts are still helping Tesla to this day. That's a good sign for investors. Tesla did drop on high volume. That's not the best of signs. You don't want to see this as investors. So the odds are favoring more potential downside in the future. Does this mean we have to come down on Monday and every single day? It doesn't mean that. We could get a small rebound first before some more potential downside, but it really depends on manipulation and how the market performs. Now, as Tesla is moving, we are actually seeing another increase in the short volume percentage, which tells me there's more shorting and more selling pressure that's entering the stock in general. So if the shorts are continuing to pile in, they might be looking for a good opportunity. I'm hoping this data has updated by now. And we did see a small spike in the short interest on, I think this was on Thursday and also parts of Friday. We did see more shorting going on right here on Tesla. So shorts are starting to pile in. We know how relentless they could be, and they could be looking for a very good opportunity to start entering in. What worries me is, look, if the market gets another pop to the upside and this drags Tesla up, the shorts might be playing a game where they want to enter at better prices. And there's a chance the short interest might show another peak another push to the upside if Tesla gets another price to the another push to the upside too. And this could just be their trick to be entering more short positions to drag the market down. This could be another trap going into CPI. So please be ready for this. I will report this based off what happens tomorrow. But we have to be very careful. There are lots of bull traps that happen in the markets. Tesla's historically green 53% of the time on Mondays. We do tend to perform a lot better on those days. And we tend to do a lot better by the second to third hours going into like the fifth or sixth hours. So it is a slow starter typically. And I do believe that we do have some potential to try to get a rebound. There is some good potential for it. I'm going to explain exactly why. In terms of price pairs ratios, we still have a nice uptrend. It's not dead yet, but this could change depending on the transition in the markets because right now, tech is not leading the markets as much as it was before, and that's often a sign of weakness. But anyways, I want to talk about just Monday before anything. If you're watching SPY, we did something good for the bulls. And that's the fact that we were chopping back and forth between 405 and 408, but then at the last like 20 minutes, we got a push up and SPY actually closed above 408, which was the major resistance. Why? Because the market makers manipulated the stock and they pushed us up at the end of the day because of the high puts from the options chain. Max pain was 409 on SPY at that time. Max pain for Friday of this week is at about 400, I believe. So they are incentivized to try to bring us down. There are still lots of puts though. So it's kind of like a mix of two worlds. And once again, I think that what matters the most is the data from CPI. It'll give us a much better picture of what's going to happen. So anyways, if SPY pushes up, okay, you're going to be watching 410. I think there are going to be some bears trying to bring it down right here, but the market makers might try to push above 410. We might try to get to about 412 if we break that. Then we also have this gap up here. I don't know if this gap is going to fill immediately, but there is a chance they might try to get us up there right before CPI, or maybe during CPI we get like a push up and then we come right back down just like the last one. You know, all sorts of things could happen, but the bottom line is I am thinking that the market might try to push up a little bit for Monday and then make a big move based off CPI. The odds are favoring downside though, because of the fact that on the daily we did get an MACD crossover. And on top of that, because of this crossover, we're also seeing the VIX continuing to pop up. The VIX looks like it wants to keep going. It got rejected off 22, came back down to about 20. It might come down a little more before it does continue to push. The odds are favoring the VIX is going to break above 22.64 to 24. That area right there. Going into maybe Tuesday through Friday of this week, it seems very probable. And that's telling me that implied volatility on SPY increasing would likely happen because of the fact that there could be some downside. The dollar already broke out of its falling wedge. And when this tends to happen, the market tends to take hits. Does this guarantee it though? The answer is no, but it's very likely that the market has more downside because of this. Now, this is telling me that maybe this comes down a little bit on Monday because they might try to push the market up a little bit, but overall it seems to be respecting an uptrend. The uptrend is not necessarily died. The MACD looks bullish, and I do think the dollar is eventually going to approach this 105 area, which means the stock market likely has more downside going forward. The last thing I'm going to talk about before Tesla is the QQQ. The QQQ is on the verge of getting another crossover on the MACD, and we're losing lots of bullish momentum. However, we did form, I think this looks like a doji, and you could see when we form these dojis, we tend to see a bit of a push up the next day. So what I'm thinking is, look, there are two possibilities, all right? If we're bearish, you have to watch this 297, then 295 zone right over here. We could come down here. If we're bullish, we could try to reclaim this 300 area, then come all the way up to 305. 305 is the next major level. And I really don't know exactly how it's going to play out, but I do believe the market makers might try to manipulate this market and push us all the way back up to 305. I don't know for sure, though. It's very hard to predict. But if that's the case, it might help Tesla a bit. So if you're a Tesla investor, what are you going to be watching for? And here's my answer. The first thing is we have some support that's coming up, because when Tesla was on an uptrend, we basically were respecting this uptrend right here, the line right here. And what I'm thinking is we could get a retest of it. Every time we touch this line, we've actually bounced. So what I'm thinking is Tesla might see a slight push up A slight push to the upside is still very possible. I think because of manipulation, they might try to cause that to happen if this thing could get a break above the 200 level. If we fail, then we could just chop back and forth and come all the way down to 190. But let me actually break this down based off what I predict is going to happen and based off the bullish and bearish possibilities. If you're a bull, if you are bullish on Tesla, you have to watch 198 to 200. This is now a major resistance area. This was a supply zone. Tesla could break this. If it breaks this area, if it breaks 200, this thing could try to chop its way all the way up to almost 205, maybe get the gap fill. There is this gap up here around this 206, 207 area. It could try to do that if we get a clean break above 200 and the market, if it does get like artificially pumped. Now, if you're a bear, if you are bearish on the market, if you're bearish on Tesla for Monday, you have to watch first off for about this 194-ish area. I do believe Tesla has some support around here, but it could break below this and retest the trend line, which would take it to about 192. If that fails, this thing is going to fall to about 189 or so. Now, I don't know exactly what's going to happen because it's a very hard day to predict because of the market makers and the manipulation. But my guess is we do have a potential bullish triangle-like setup that developed on over the last couple of hours of the trading day. And we did see this thing respecting a slight uptrend, right? It was a mix of two things. We did come down to about 192, almost 193. Then we have like this bullish triangle-like setup. So my guess, if I were to predict what's going to happen, is firstly, make sure you're prepared for both sides. But my guess is they might try to artificially pump the markets just a bit. And we might see Tesla try to break this zone right here, maybe test it, and we might be able to break 200. That's just my guess, guys. And the reason I'm using the word guess is I can't predict the manipulation perfectly. It's very hard to predict that. The market makers could come out and push us up higher, or the bears could come in and smack us down. It's the day before CPI. I'm talking about Monday. That's why it's going to be so tricky. But like I said, my prediction would be we might try to fight for that 200. We might break above it. And if we do, watch this 200 to 205 area. We also have this gap up here on Tesla. I don't know if we're going to fill this gap immediately. That is a possibility. We might try to do it right before CPI. And there's also a possibility that this whole move could be another bull trap just to trick lots and lots of people, especially a lot of the bulls out there. Now, what else is worth noting is there is a possible slanted head and shoulders developing. If this could be like the left shoulder, this could be like the head, and we might be trying to form like a right shoulder around this area right here above the neckline. We could try to get the gap fill, maybe come to gap resistance. That is a real possibility, and that could be setting us up for a drop going into CPI or maybe after CPI. So tomorrow, what I'm seeing is we might see a small push up. We might, I don't really know for sure, but that would be my guess. And if it doesn't happen that way, be prepared for anything, watch support and resistance. And just know that on the longer time frame, we are starting to see the MACD slow down. It's starting to actually lose momentum. So even if we do get a slight push up, please be very cautious because the odds are favoring in this market to see some downside approaching us, maybe going after the CPI report. The odds are favoring more downside to come. I know, guys, it's very tough. I know you don't want to hear that, but it is what it is because on the daily on SPY, we already got this crossover on the MACD and we're very close to getting it on the QQQ. Tech is also starting to slow down compared to the collective market, which is often a bearish signal. So whether we get a small pump tomorrow or not, the odds are favoring downside to come in the market, right? My opinion could change depending on CPI, but the odds are favoring CPI to either be as expected or a little bit higher, right? And that's the reason why I'm saying these things. So once again, for tomorrow, my guess would be maybe the manipulation causes a bit of a push to the upside for Tesla, maybe a slight push to the upside. That's about it. And then after that, we will react to CPI, which is actually, in my opinion, more likely to cause downside. That's just my honest opinion. I don't know for sure, but we'll just have to wait and see. So anyways, Thank you all for listening. I hope you guys have a fantastic Super Bowl Sunday. I hope you guys are excited. I hope you guys are going to relax before the market ends up opening on Monday. And I want the best for everyone. Thank you. Tesla to the moon, because the long-term future is still incredibly bright. And peace out.